प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः.
Namaskar everybody. Hope you are comfortable with the intro session and your interest to learn more on Bhagavad Gita has been kindled. Let's move with the Josh forward. So we are starting with the regular Bhagavad Gita sessions from today. Let me reassure you again that language will not be a barrier. உங்களுக்கு தமிழோ அல்லது இங்கிலீஷோ புரிஞ்சுக்கிற மாதிரி இருந்ததுன்னா போதும். Every shloka will be given in Sanskrit, followed by transliteration Englishல இருக்கும், followed by transliteration தமிழ்ல இருக்கும், ஒரே ஸ்லைட்ல வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் சொல்ற எக்ஸ்பிளனேஷனும் இங்கிலீஷ் அண்ட் தமிழ்ல மிக்ஸ் பண்ணி சொல்லுவேன். அண்ட் அடிஷ்னலி அந்த புக்கில் இருக்கிற மீனிங் போட்டுறதும் இங்கிலீஷ்ல அண்ட் தமிழ்ல இருக்கும். ஸோ உங்களுக்கு ஹேண்டிகேப்பே இருக்காது. All that is required is please come with an open mind and with a focused mind. In the 20 to 30 minutes sessionல digression எதுவும் வச்சுக்காதீங்க. அப்படி ஏதாவது இருந்ததுன்னா, since you have a flexibility to watch when you are free, so keep that time free, entirely free, and watch please. You do not require a book during the sessions because everything that you need will be put in the slide. Of course, later நீங்க வந்து புக்ல ரெஃபர் பண்ணலாம். இதுல ஸ்லோகா நம்பர் கொடுக்கறதும் புக்கில் இருக்கிறதும் எக்ஸாக்ட் 1:1 கோஆர்டினேஷன் இருக்கும். நான் அதை வந்து எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றதுல வரப்போகுது. Are you ready? Let's go further. All our sessions will follow a particular sequence. Let me explain that briefly. Every session will begin with the Pariha title song. Immediately after that will be the chanting of one verse of the Dhyana Shloka. You heard it just now. And the Dhyana Shloka itself, it's a set of 9 beautiful verses. Symbolically, I have picked up one verse and that is chanted and recorded. Every session that will play. And for your information, I have plans for recording the chanting of all the 9 shlokas and with my explanation of a meaning of each of the shlokas and put them together in the Pariha website subsequently. I will let you know when it happens. So, Dhyana Shloka, one verse. அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து கைடட் சாண்டிங். ஒவ்வொரு செஷன்லையும் நான் 4 ஸ்லோகா எடுத்துக்க போறேன். That's a plan. Those 4 shlokas will be chanted through a guided mode in the beginning. The lead chanter will chant first 1 quarter, followed by the repeat chanter repeating that quarter. And the repeat chanter பாடும்போது, that is the time I will request you to chant along. And please do it loud since you are in your own confined places. And this will help in getting over the inhibition, and the melodious chanting will bring in peace, inner peace. So 1 quarter, then 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter. You also saw the demo last week. So Dhyana Shloka, guided chanting. அதுக்கு அடுத்தது வந்து I will be taking up for explanation of those 4 shlokas, word by word, paraphrased, the broad meaning, background, all that. இது வந்து இங்கிலீஷ் அண்ட் தமிழும் கூட இருக்கிறதுனால யூ வில் நாட் ஹேவ் அ ஹேண்டிகேப் அட் ஆல். நான் சொல்லி முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் you will also get to see on the slide English and Tamil meaning. So நான் explanation முடிச்ச பிறகு when I end the session with the final namaskar, immediately after that one verse of Shanti mantra will be played. There are many Shanti mantras. I have picked up one popular Shanti mantra. So that will be played. And the Shanti mantra முடிஞ்ச உடனே the reminder will come to you for liking the session, subscribing for Pariha website, and sharing with your friends. Kindly do that. So the sequence will be Dhyana Shloka, guided chanting, explanation by me for the 4 shlokas for the session, and Shanti mantra. So that will be the sequence. You will know in 1 or 2 sessions, you will become very, very familiar with that. Let's move further. Just before the guided chant session begins, I would give here in this slide the serial numbers of the shlokas that we will be taking up for that particular session. For example, today's session is session 1, and the shlokas we are taking up are 1.1, which indicates chapter 1, shloka 1, 1.41, chapter 1, shloka 41, 1.47, chapter 1, shloka 47, and 2.1, chapter 2, shloka 1. I had mentioned earlier that these numbers will be identical in all the books on Bhagavad Gita. So later on, when you want to read further, cross-refer, you would find it easy. And also keep it in mind, there are 700 verses or shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. And if I have to go through all the 700 shlokas, it will take more than 3 years. Therefore, for beginners to understand the nuances, I have picked up select shlokas from each chapter to give an exposure. I had mentioned this earlier also. There are about 132 shlokas. That's what we will be covering. It will go in a sequential order. Let's get into the guided chant.
धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे
धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे
समवेतायुयुत्सवः
समवेतायुयुत्सवः
मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव
मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव
किमकुर्वत सञ्जय
किमकुर्वत सञ्जय
अधर्माभिभवात् कृष्ण
अधर्माभिभवात् कृष्ण
प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः
प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः
स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय
स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेय
जायते वर्णसङ्करः
जायते वर्णसङ्करः
एवमुक्त्वार्जुनः सङ्ख्ये
एवमुक्त्वार्जुनः सङ्ख्ये
रथोपस्थ उपाविशत्
रथोपस्थ उपाविशत्
विसृज्य सशरं चापं
विसृज्य सशरं चापं
शोकसंविघ्नमानसः
शोकसंविघ्नमानसः
तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम्
तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम्
अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम्
अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम्
विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम्
विषीदन्तमिदं वाक्यम्
उवाच मधुसूदनः
उवाच मधुसूदनः
Detailed explanation. The Mahabharata war is all set to begin. The war was made necessary because Duryodhana refused to part with any piece of land to the Pandavas. And the blind king, father of Kauravas, that is Duryodhana and his 99 brothers, he is sitting in the palace, very keen to know what is happening in the war scenario. And he has his minister Sanjaya with him. Sanjaya was blessed with special powers to see remote what was happening in the battlefield. And he was narrating to King Dhritarashtra a sort of a running commentary he was giving. So there are 4 players who speak in the whole of Bhagavad Gita. One is King Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, of course, speaks only the first shloka. Then Arjuna, who keeps asking questions, Krishna, Lord Krishna, who gives explanations, and Sanjaya, who fills the gap in between, narrating this is what Arjuna said, this is what Krishna said, or when there is a change of scene or a transition, Sanjaya pitches in to narrate that portion of transition. That's how the whole Bhagavad Gita goes. The first verse is by King Dhritarashtra. Let's have a look at that. Here, the number on the top 1.1. The first number indicates on the number on the left side indicates the chapter number. The right side number indicates the shloka or the verse number. So this 1.1 is from chapter 1, shloka 1. So this is the very first shloka of Bhagavad Gita, and that is spoken by King Dhritarashtra to Sanjaya. And incidentally, the last shloka of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 18, the very last shloka, the verse, that is spoken by Sanjaya. Just for information. Okay. The shloka goes like this. King Dhritarashtra says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. That is what you heard it in chanting. So, இதுல வந்து பகவத் கீதால நம்ம பார்க்க வேண்டிய one of the important things, it's a brilliant way of communication that is explained here by example. In most of the places, the person speaking addresses the other one to who it is addressed by name, making it more personal. So here, King Dhritarashtra addresses Sanjaya. So he is saying, Sanjaya, oh Sanjaya, Kurukshetra is the place where the Mahabharata war took place. And King Dhritarashtra calls it a Dharmakshetra, a place full of Dharma. In fact, it's the Pandavas who are full of dharmic values. It's the Kauravas who were with evil designs. Anyway, Dhritarashtra addresses Sanjaya and he wants to know Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. And the Dharmakshetramagiya Kurukshetrathila, Kurukshetra is the name of that place. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Yuyutsavaha now for wanting to wage a war. Samaveta, assembled together. இந்த மாதிரி assembled இருக்காங்களே யாரு, Mamakaha, Nammavanga. He says Nammalunga. He is talking about his sons as, or his sons army people as Nammalunga. And though Pandu is his younger brother, the Pandavas are the children of that younger brother and their army, he talks about them as third person, aliens. So he says, Mamakaha, Nammalinga, Pandavaha cha, and the Pandavargalum, Kimakurvata, என்னதான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறாங்க. So he is addressing Sanjaya, asking him, நம்மளுங்களும் பாண்டவர்களும் அந்த தர்மக்ஷேத்திரமான the holy place குருக்ஷேத்ரால சண்டை போடுறதுக்காக குழுமி இருக்காங்களே, the ones who have assembled with the intention of waging a war, what are they doing? That is, he is telling Sanjaya that he is very keen to know what is happening, thus starting the running commentary part of it. இதனுடைய விளக்கம், asked Dhritarashtra, O Sanjaya, in the righteous field of Kurukshetra, what are my sons and Pandavas doing? Assembled and excited to fight. இந்த விளக்கம் தமிழ்ல, இதுல let me remind you, தமிழ் விளக்கம் I have taken with utmost pride பாரதியாரோட translation. Let me remind you again, Bharatiyar had as much pulamai in Sanskrit as he had in Tamil. அருமையா டிரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. அதனால பெருமையா நான் அதை யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறேன். சஞ்சயா, அறநிலமாகிய குறுநிலத்தில் போர் செய்ய விரும்பி திரண்ட நம்மவர்களும் பாண்டவர்களும் என்ன செய்தனர்? So he is setting the ball rolling, King Dhritarashtra, asking Sanjaya to start his running commentary. Sanjaya initially gives a description of the two sides of the army, its constituents, etc. He then says that Arjuna becomes keen just before the war began to go and survey the two sides of the army. Arjuna is keen to know who are all those kings who had chosen to side with the evil Duryodhana. And Lord Krishna, who is the charioteer for Arjuna, obliges Arjuna, except that he mischievously goes and parks the chariot right in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya, the grandsire and the guru for Arjuna, for who Arjuna had great respect for. So Arjuna's mood changes immediately, but of course he puts a facade, a pretension. So he tells Lord Krishna that his hands are trembling, his leg is shaky, and his mouth has become dry, and his bow is slipping from his hands. He says the prospect of having to kill his close relatives, it's an undaunting task. So Arjuna says, அதை விட்டுட்டு he would rather go away than killing the relatives. அதுக்கப்புறம் Arjuna says, அந்த மாதிரி if the relatives are killed, the first victim will be the family tree. And he says the kulanasham, that is, evil will happen to the nobility that is associated with the family life and society. So இப்போ ஸ்லோகம், அடுத்த ஸ்லோகம் வருது. அதர்ம அபிபவாத் கிருஷ்ண பிரதுஷ்யந்தி குலஸ்திரியः ஸ்திரீஷு துஷ்டாசு Varshneya Jayate Varna Sankaraha. So here Arjuna addresses Krishna by two names, by Krishna itself and Varshneya, that is Varshne family ல இருந்து வந்தவர் சொல்லிட்டு. So Arjuna tells Krishna, Adharma Abhibhavat. அப்போ அதர்மம் மிகுதியாகிறதுனால குலஸ்திரியா பிரதுஷ்யந்தி, the family women will lose their character and morals. And ஸ்திரீஷு துஷ்டாசு, அந்த மாதிரி women losing their chastity or the character, moral code of conduct, varna sankaraha jayase, varna sankaraha jayate na, and the intermixing of cultures will happen. So the offspring will not have an identity or a tradition to follow. So he says mix of traditions will take place and it will cause an evil to the society. So that is what the lament of Arjuna is. புக்ல கொடுத்திருக்கிற விளக்கம் பார்க்கலாம். Krishna, due to increase of adharma, women in the family will be given to improper ways. When the women become corrupt, confusion is born in the society. கண்ணா, அதர்மம் சூழ்வதனால் குலஸ்திரீகள் கெட்டு போகிறார்கள். விருஷ்ணிகுல தோன்றலே மாதர் கெடுவதனால் வர்ண குழப்பம் உண்டாகிறது. So Arjuna continues on this path for some more time till he ultimately gives up. We will see further. Arjuna continues his lamenting and says that for the sin that he was about to commit, he will end up in hell for causing a collapse to the family system and so on. And then Arjuna utters the following verse, which is the final straw. Eva muktva Arjunaha Sankhye Ratopastha Upavishat Visrujya Sasharam Chapam Shoka Samvigna Manasaha. Arjunaha, அந்த அர்ஜுனன், ஏவ முக்த்வா, இந்த மாதிரி எல்லாம் வரிசையா ஒவ்வொரு ரீசனா சொல்லிப்புட்டு எங்க சங்கே, in the battlefield. He is not sitting at his home. He is right in front of the battlefield. Not only that, he is leading that army. So what did Arjuna do? Sasharam Chapam Visrijya, and the bow and arrow ரெண்டையும் தூக்கி போட்டுட்டு Shoka Samvigna Manasaha, துக்கமே நிரம்பினவனா, the totally downtrodden. Ratopastha Upavishat, he went and sat in one corner of the chariot. So Arjuna, having lamented like this in the battlefield, so he took his bow and arrow in desperation, threw it down, and fully saddened in his face and in his heart, he went and sat on the chariot. Imagine the scenario where the general has to give up like that even before the war begins. Isn't it a total surrender to the enemy? Anyway, that is where the challenge arose for Lord Krishna. Let's see the explanation. Having spoken in this manner in the middle of the battlefield, Arjuna, whose mind was completely overcome by sorrow, sat down on the seat of the chariot, casting aside his bow and arrows. செருக்களத்தில் இவ்வாறு சொல்லிவிட்டு பார்த்தன் அம்புகளையும் வில்லையும் எரிந்துவிட்டு துயரில் மூழ்கிய மனத்தனாய் தேர்ப்பீடத்தின் மேல் உட்கார்ந்து கொண்டான். So this could be probably one of the most serious scenario one can witness in a battlefield, where the army general, where everything is dependent upon him, suddenly gets into a bout of depression, throws away his weapons and says, I will not fight. Isn't that an interesting scenario? Let's see how Lord Krishna handles that. Isn't that an extraordinary situation where Arjuna's army is facing defeat even before the war has begun? Because the army general is in a depression. So Sanjaya describes what did Lord Krishna do in such a situation. Let's see that. Tam tata kripaya vishtam ashrupurna akula ikshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. மதுசூதனஹாங்கிறது வந்து லார்ட் கிருஷ்ணாவோட இன்னொரு பேரு. ததா அந்த மாதிரி, in that scenario, kripaya avishtam, the one who was overwhelmed by compassion, that is Arjuna. Not only that, ashru purna akula ikshanam, ashruna, the tears. He had his eyes full of tears, and because of that his vision was blurred. Arjuna was crying. Imagine, the warrior, the general, is crying in the battlefield. And vishidantam, he is full of distress. So avana paathu madhusudanaha, the Kannan, Krishna, idam vakyam uvacha, he spoke to him these words. Which words? It will come next week. இதனுடைய விளக்கம் பார்க்கலாம் இந்த ஸ்லோகத்துக்கு. Sanjaya said, Sanjaya is describing, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, that is Krishna, spoke the following words. So Sanjaya is saying, அவ்வண்ணம் இரக்கம் மிஞ்சியவனாய் நீர் நிரம்பிய விழிகளுடன் வருந்திய அர்ஜுனனை நோக்கி மதுசூதன் சொல்கிறான். மதுசூதன் சொல்கிறான் சொல்லி சஸ்பென்ஸ்ல முடியுது. மதுசூதன் என்ன சொல்கிறான்? What did Lord Krishna say? That is what is interesting. To pull out a person, the army general who was in serious depression in the battlefield, it's a very, very interesting thing how Lord Krishna starts the conversation. Because if the conversation is to go, the first sentence which he says has to appeal to Arjuna's noble motives. We will see this next week. So, அடுத்த வாரம் சந்திப்போம். Take care. Namaskar everybody.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.